Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tips, tools, and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. Today I have guest Meryl Arnett. Meryl is a meditation teacher and host of the Mindful Minute podcast, where she delights in combining the magical and the mundane in our daily lives. Meryl has been teaching meditation internationally since 2010, and her meditation classes have been featured on popular news outlets, Today.com, and Atlanta Magazine. Her passion is to introduce mindfulness in ways that are accessible and enjoyable to everyone. Welcome, Meryl. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to get to chat with you.
So you and I, we're going to talk about how to prioritize a meditation practice into our busy schedules. And so, Meryl, you've been teaching meditation for more than 10 years. Can you start off by sharing your story on how you found meditation and how it's changed your life?
Yeah, I love telling this story because it was a little bit by happenstance. The short and the long of it is I was getting married many, many years ago, and I signed up for a yoga and Pilates boot camp. And I had done Pilates. That was the exercise I knew. I had never done yoga. And I thought, that sounds lovely and stretchy and fun. And I show up at 6 a.m. for this first yoga class, and I unroll my mat. And halfway through that class, clear as a bell, I heard, "You are going to teach this one day."
Wow.
Clear as a bell. And I believed it. And I decided that I was indeed going to do that. And so I sort of took all the yoga classes, and I found a teacher. A couple years later, I did a training and I became a yoga teacher. And I wasn't a yoga teacher for 10 minutes before people started asking me how to meditate. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not meditating. And I fully grant that there are some yoga schools out there that teach meditation. There are unfortunately many that do not. Mine was one that did not. And so I had no idea how to teach meditation. I wasn't a meditator. I'm incredibly type A. I have a lot of anxiety in general. So I was like, I don't know how to teach. I feel like I should, and probably it would help me too. Let me figure this out. And so as all type A people would do, I signed up for the hardest thing I could find, right? I signed up for this 5-day intense training.
Going in.
Yes, totally. Totally. It was not the right decision. And it was fine. So I do this training, and I left at the end of 5 days, and I still had no idea I was like, I can't meditate. I don't understand what is supposed to happen. Whatever words they're using do not make sense to me. That is not my experience inside. And it felt like there was something there that I wanted, and I couldn't quite grasp it. I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And it sort of opened a doorway for me. So I started taking meditation classes. I tried a couple different monasteries here in the city. I tried a couple different teachers. And ultimately, I found Tara Brach, who was my first meditation teacher, that spoke about meditation in a way that made sense to me. And once I got it, I was like, I am going to make this easier for other people. You should not have to spend 3 years trying 100 different studios and classes and monasteries to understand meditation. You should be able to do it because we all are capable of it. And so that's really the path that led me to what I'm doing today.
Yeah. And it's built within us, right? It's just remembering how to do that and how to tune into that peace, that balance, that harmony from within. And so, Meryl, you're a busy mom and a meditation teacher. And so, for those out there who might be saying, just like you were in the beginning, meditation, what is that? I'm type A personality. I'm a busy go. How do I slow myself down to take some time to meditate? So what advice can you share for those who might be wanting to start a meditation practice, but they just don't know how to find the time, or they don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, I really relate with that. That was absolutely one of my struggles. And I feel like one of the first things we can do for ourselves is let go of all the images that exist out there around what meditation looks like, what we think it's supposed to feel like, what we're supposed to be like because we meditate. There's so much expectation layered on this practice, 99% of which is myth. And instead, I would get very, very curious about, what do I already do in my life that almost I never skip it? So for me, that would be drink a cup of coffee in the morning, right? It's a big deal if I'm going to miss the cup of coffee in the morning. And that's where my practice started. Was I poured the cup and I said, before I take this sip, I'm going to sit here for 2 minutes. And I did that. And then it became 3 minutes. And then it became 5 minutes. And it wasn't this 20-minute extravagant practice in the beginning. It was, can I just sit still and quiet for 2 minutes? And the truth is, most of us answer no to that question in the beginning. That's hard. And so let's just start there. And as we start to get comfortable with, this is what it feels like to be quiet. And it doesn't mean your mind is quiet, but it means you are not distracting yourself from your mind. So you're present for whatever's going on. And once I'm like, oh, I could do that for 2 minutes before running away or before gulping my coffee, we just start to add a little bit of time. And it's not the duration that matters. It's the consistency that matters. I drink coffee every day. I can pause 1 minute every day, and that makes a difference in our minds and our bodies.
Does. And I bet you appreciate that coffee more, the smells, the taste, feeling the gratitude for having that mindful minute, right? And allowing yourself to do that. Now, when I started my meditation practice, I did it with my morning walk. That's how I started doing it. So I would get up and walk in the morning, and then I began to do walking meditations. And I noticed that I would have that free flowing energy kind of moving through me, and all this inspiration would come to me during that walk. But I was also doing conscious walking, I guess, because I was taking in the scents and the scenery around me, the beauty of the trees and all of that. So it wasn't like I was completely focused on what was coming through. It was just this beautiful balance. And I noticed myself really enjoying my walks much more versus having all of this information of what I have to do for the day, coming through. It was more just really allowing myself to enjoy the scenery, enjoy that minute. And so, Meryl, is there a difference between meditation and mindfulness?
I think there is, and I'll name two things in that. I want to address what you just said, because you said something I feel like is so important. And when I talk about mindful meditation, the definition that I tend to use is to be present without judgment and with compassion. And that first piece, to be present, is often the trickiest piece, because we're so lost in what happened yesterday and replaying it, or worrying about what's coming next and fast forwarding to the future, that it's very hard for us to land in the present moment. And the way that we do that is we get our senses back online. So as you're talking about this mindful walk, it's mindful because you are looking and seeing what's in front of you, because you're hearing the sounds, because you're smelling the smells. So when our senses are working, we are present. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had the experience of, you are leaving your kid's school or you're leaving the office and you pull into your driveway at home and you think, did I stop at any of the red lights? Like, how did I get here? Right? We've all done that.
Yes.
That is the perfect example of not being present. Our senses shut down. We're not hearing. We're not seeing. We're not smelling. We're lost in the past or the future. Right. And so whether you're walking or washing dishes or seated cross-legged on the ground, that mindfulness is, am I present? Are my senses working? right? So that to me is mindful, and we could be mindful in any activity that we choose to be mindful in, anytime we turn our senses on. The difference, I would say, between mindfulness and meditation is an intentional practice of settling yourself for a specific amount of time and not distracting yourself with anything else. So there would be no other activity happening. You can go on a mindful jog, right? But to mindfully meditate, you're going to mostly be still. You're going to be present. And then you're going to have the experience of being in your body, noticing what thoughts come up, what feelings come up, becoming aware of what's happening in your physical space.
Yeah. And so, is there certain times that are better than others to sit down and meditate?
I will say yes with a giant caveat. The first and most important answer is the best time to meditate is the time you can do it. Right. So when I had little babies, meditation was either when I was nursing or when they were napping. And that was just when that happened. I didn't have a set time, but that was the moment I could do it. Now that my kids are a little older and I have a little bit of a routine to my days, I love meditating first thing in the morning because nothing else has gotten in the way yet. If I wait until lunchtime, I'm like, well, I'm only halfway through my to-do list and I've got that conference call later and I got to remember to stop at the grocery store before I get home. And it's not that you can't meditate, but you have all those extra layers on top of your meditation. And in the morning, it tends to be, you're already a little sleepy. So it's a little easier to be quiet, to sort of drop in.
It is. And the times that we're in those beautiful theta brainwave states when we're first waking up in the morning and then when we're first falling asleep at night, those are the times when I love to meditate, is when we're in those theta states. But I will say, back when I worked in healthcare, I worked in a very busy trauma environment. There were times when I had to walk off the unit, go into a quiet space and just sit there and meditate for 5 or 10 minutes just to get my heart rate, to stabilize, to bring my stress levels down, to clear my mind. And so there were times when I would utilize that in that, high stress environment. It's like, okay, I've got just 15 minutes to, before I go eat, wolf my food down. I'm going to sit there for 5 minutes and just focus on my breath and focus on being present in that moment. And I noticed it was like a little reset. They say to go take a little 30-minute nap, to recharge you. I would find that meditating midday for me was like hitting the reset button at that time. And so I asked you that question because I feel like there's times when it's a little easier, but then there's times when you might need it more, but it might seem like, gosh, I'm not sure that's a great time to meditate because I'm super stressed out right now.
Yeah, and I think you can look at meditation almost as a dual practice. So on the one hand, we can look at meditation like a Band-Aid. I am having the most stressful day. The emails have not stopped. My kids had a meltdown. Traffic was awful. And now I have to go into this meeting and do a huge presentation. And my heart is racing. I'm sweaty. I feel like I'm not present. That is when you need meditation as a Band-Aid. You're not going to do a 20-minute, amazingly silent, blissful practice. But what if you did 5 minutes of something very intentionally to impact your nervous system? So you might do some diaphragmatic breathing, letting your belly expand as you inhale, contract as you exhale. You might hum, so you're like vibrating that vagal nerve a little bit. There's a lot of techniques that are instantly soothing to our nervous system. We can do them in less than 5 minutes. It is not about establishing some mythic peaceful mind state, but it is about establishing a peaceful nervous system.
Yes.
So that I'm in my body and I can act with intention moving through my day. Absolutely. And then there's meditation as a lifestyle, right? This is I'm going to get up and meditate for 10 minutes every day because I really want to create a more consistent sense of emotional stability. I want to connect to myself deeper or my family deeper. And so we can use meditation. It doesn't have to be either or, it works both all the time.
And I think it's good to clarify that, because I think a lot of people are on that spectrum that, I
Yeah.
have to create it as a lifestyle, but it may take some time to get there. At least that was my experience. I was using it as a Band-Aid,
Oh,
in
for
those
sure.
moments when I was go, 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 and my nervous system was completely off the charts. I was using it as a Band-Aid, but then as I began to recognize some of the benefits to meditation, I began to create it into my life as a lifestyle. So Meryl, can you talk about some of the benefits of meditation other than just helping
Mm.
to relax the nervous system?
I think the greatest benefit, at least in my personal experience, the greatest benefit is that meditation really allows us to build a sense of comfort with our own discomfort. And that's profound if you think about it, because we spend so much time running or fighting or freezing when we get uncomfortable, when we're scared, when we're overwhelmed, when we're underslept, when we're too hot or too cold, you name it. We get uncomfortable, and there is deep emotion that rides with that, and all sorts of coping mechanisms so that we don't feel it. And meditation, when we do it every day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we start to notice, wow, some days this is beyond uncomfortable. Some days I can barely make it 10 minutes before I have to get up. It's noisy. The thoughts are loud. My heart is racing. I can think of 1,000 other things I could do. And the next day, it might be the most blissful, spacious, luxurious 10 minutes you've ever had in your entire life. And as we revisit this over and over again, essentially what we're doing is building a sense of resiliency, a sense of no matter what's going on in my life, I know I can sit here and feel it or see it or hear it and be okay, even if it's hard, even if I feel intense anxiety. I also know I'm okay somehow. And so to me, that great benefit is resiliency, right? I'm building the sense that whatever comes, there is some small piece of me that knows I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, and that's
It's big.
powerful. That is. It really is. And so, for those out there who have made meditation a lifestyle,
Mm.
but maybe they've made meditation a lifestyle for 10, 15 minutes. How do they lengthen their practice, or how do they expand
Mhm.
it beyond that 10-minute mark?
So once we start to go beyond 10 minutes, I think things get really, really interesting, because the first 10 minutes, it's like we're sort of sifting through the front layers of the brain, like all of our thoughts and our to-dos and what's immediately present for us. And somewhere around the 10-minute mark for most of us, we'll start to drop into a deeper space. So a bit of more of that subconscious space. And you might experience daydreams. You might feel like you are like dropping into nothing, or am I asleep? Am I awake? I'm not sure. So it's really powerful to start to extend that practice a bit beyond 10 minutes. And I found one of the ways I'll give you two ways that have really helped me in general. The first is I started taking my practice outside.
Mhm.
And there is a lot of teaching among many cultures and many lineages. When you look at the original teachings, almost all of them make some metaphor comparison to the landscape, to the external world being a mirror for the internal world. Everything that exists outside exists inside, right? And so when we go sit outside, it's like we're surrounding ourselves with a mirror. And I know that this sounds maybe poetic or maybe a little woo. And I guarantee you You go outside and you sit down and you're going to be like, that leaf falling off that tree is my soul.
It
And
is.
here's what's happening.
It's a fractal.
Without fail. I mean, I have taught thousands of students at this point, and every single one of them, I say, go sit outside. And I have never had somebody say to me, that was not good. I did not enjoy that. There is something about nature that speaks to the inside of us, each of us. And so when we say, all right, I've been doing 10 minutes, I'm listening to my app, I sit for the 10 minutes, it's good, it's not great, what next? Go outside and add 5 minutes. So if you're doing 10, make it 15 and sit outside and just stay and see what happens. So that would be the first way I would deepen. And then the piece I would add to it, if you're really wanting to get there, is at the end of your practice, open up a journal or a notebook or the notes app on your phone and journal for 3 to 5 minutes. Stream of consciousness. I don't care if it's you're writing down your daydream. You could write every single thought that you remember thinking during the meditation, whatever comes to mind. You're not going to show anybody. Doesn't have to be complete sentences. You could draw. But there's something about translating our practice from the internal world onto paper that lets us remember the wisdom. And that's when you're like, oh, this practice is doing something. Yes. I thought that leaf was a piece of my soul, and I remember it because I wrote it down. Otherwise, it's a fleeting thought amid many, right? And now I can, why? Do I feel like I'm falling in my life? Am I like vibrant and bright and green? You know, we can play with the metaphor to understand our subconscious more. It's fascinating.
It really is fascinating. And from a scientific level, we actually, as human beings, resonate at the exact same frequency as the earth. It's called the Schumann resonance. And so that resonance vibrates at a theta brainwave state. So when we actually go out into nature and we sit in nature, we reset and rebalance our central nervous system. And so that's why it's so powerful as well when we're out there, you know, because we're so consumed with artificial lighting, artificial electromagnetic frequencies, all of this artificial, you know, energy that's being kind of thrown at us when we're inside, we're under these lights, we're, you know, listening to certain types of music, and we go outside into nature, you listen to the birds, you listen to the babbling brook, you know, these are things that will reset us back to our original organic DNA. It's built within us, and the earth does that naturally. You know, that's why they say there's something to be said about hugging trees and putting your, you know, gardening, putting your bare feet on the earth. It's because it creates an electromagnetic field around us, and it resets our energy. And so bringing your practice from inside to outside can definitely elevate it. It can heighten it.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. And you know, the other piece that's so interesting is it really taps directly into that discomfort, comfort immediately. Because this is nine times out of 10, the response I get when I say, go take your practice outside is, well, there's bugs. And it's, you know, I'm in Georgia right now in August as we record this. So it's very hot.
Very hot.
And like we're having pop-up thunderstorms all day today. So like there's a million excuses, right? A million. And of course, I want you to be safe. I want you to take precaution. And also, it's okay to be a little uncomfortable. It's okay to be hot. It's okay if there is, you know, bugs flying by, as long as they're not attacking you. And most of the time they don't. So it's a really good practice.
It is. And I think, you know, you'll see the yogis doing that, the monks doing that, sitting there for hours on end. And that's part of the mastery of it too, is beginning to shift your internal world. So then your external mirror, so to speak, will begin to change too. So if you've got the bugs going on, then shift what's inside of you, those thoughts that are telling you, oh, the bugs are driving me crazy, the bugs, try to get those to calm. And then you'll begin to recognize the bugs aren't bothering me anymore, even though they're there. they aren't bothering me. And so, I've worked with that a little bit too, and just, tried to, you know, allow my energy to shift from the inside to see how that can transition the
You
outside.
remind me of this great quote, and I can't remember who said it, a very famous ancient meditation teacher. And somebody was complaining about noise being distracting. And he said, the noise is not bothering you. You are bothering the noise.
It was Eckhart
Oh.
Tolle, I think, who said that.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's so funny. I couldn't
Because
remember who it was.
he said something about how, you could meditate and you hear all these noises, and that's a mirror of what's going on inside of you. And the moment you can kind of quiet that down, you'll notice that those noises aren't going to trigger you, like they are when you first sit down and recognize them. And so Meryl, this kind of leads into, you're a mom. Okay. So there could be some moms out there listening saying, okay, I have 2 or 3 children and they're running around and I want to meditate. And how do we incorporate a practice with our kids? And how, at what age can you start incorporating a meditation practice with them? How young can you teach children to start meditating?
Yeah, I love this question. And any age is fabulous. And I think there's a lot of views on this. And I think you could teach your children to meditate. I will tell you that what I have chosen to do is my practice is just around and in front of my kids. So they know what I'm doing. And I say, Mom's going to go meditate. I usually meditate on our back deck, which butts up to our living room where the TV is. And so early in the morning, the kids are up before school. They get to watch a show and Mom goes out on the deck and meditates. I leave the door open. They can come out. They know they can come out. They can sit with me. If they need me, they'll interrupt me. I can hear the TV in the background. It is not perfect and silent. And that is okay, right? I think this is maybe the biggest misconception about meditation is it has to be perfect and silent around me, and it should be perfect and silent inside me. And neither of those statements are true. And all I want my children to see is that intentionally, every day, I take time for myself to connect, to set intention, to be present, to be patient, to be kind with my kids. And then I talk about what I thought in my practice or what I felt in my practice. I journal. And, so my kids right now are 8 and 4, and they both will absolutely sit cross-legged and do the little hands. And sometimes they'll pull out a notebook and pretend they're journaling, and they love to say that they're going to go meditate. And, they sit for 30 seconds maybe. And it's to me, that's such a win because they're creating awareness. It's normalized. It's there for them. And I'm not making them do it.
Yeah.
Right. The thing I do is talk quite a bit about are we being mindful? How does your body feel? Right. So I weave words in quite a bit, but in terms of actual practice, I never force them to do it. And I always let it be in front of them, even if it means my practice is not as quiet as I wish it was all the time.
Yeah, and your energy is also, they're going to pick up on that, right? If mom is stressed, then mom goes and meditates, mom comes back and mom's much more chill and relaxed. They're going to say, when mom has her time to meditate, she seems a little more calm. And, I'm sure as they age, they'll start to, start to want to take on some of those techniques that you have been planting seeds in them,
I hope so.
Their whole childhood.
We'll see.
Because, children are always watching, right? Children
Yes.
are always watching. And whether you think that they're, applying those or not, you might be surprised at some time where they actually start really applying some of the things that you've, instilled in them from a young age.
And, I think it's so easy to see our less desirable habits in our children, right? It's easy to see them mirror those. And when I do, I'll speak just for myself. I have this innate, we need to be more mindful. You should be meditating. I'm going to start a meditation every night before bed. We're going to meditate 5 minutes. And the truth is, just like we were talking about with nature, it's a mirror. And if I'm getting upset about them, some behavior in them, I need to go and do my practice. And then if there's something for them to do, beautiful, we'll do that together. But I need to start with myself as the parent before I dump a practice or an expectation on my children. And I feel like that's such an important touchstone for me is mom first. I have to make sure emotionally I'm in the right space first before we tackle any other emotional whatever the children are experiencing in the moment.
It's true, because the energy that you're bringing in is they're going to mirror that back to you, right? So if you're high stress, they're going to pick up on that and become high stress and anxious. And, it's just simple things, incorporating a mindful minute with the children. Let's go out and take a little walk by the creek and let's see if we can find a butterfly, or let's see, if we can find a certain flower, or, whatever it is, just really incorporating them into nature. I mean, I know my era, I grew up, my mom booted us out of the house at 7 in the morning.
Same.
And I wasn't back in till 7 at night, so but we lived next to a beautiful river and almost like a little cottage, on the water side. But, now kids, it's very different, right? It's almost like we've got to drag the kids outside and say, okay, let's spend some time. And if as parents, we can incorporate that more into our children's lives, just that nature itself, it will balance them out, and really help them relieve their stress and anxiety as well.
Yeah, I really find that to be true. And I think it's just that, like you said, it's that mindful moment of let's go outside. I know it's hot. We'll go outside for 5 minutes. Take your shoes off. Let's run through the grass. And then, we don't even have to say we're grounding, we're calming our bodies down. We just go walk around barefoot. And then we go back inside and everybody's a little bit calmer. And that's a good thing.
It really is. And so, let's talk a little bit about your podcast, The Mindful Minute. So in 2022 is the top 5% most shared podcast, which is awesome.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate that, being a podcaster myself. So good job. Kudos. That's
Thank
awesome.
You so much.
Consistently named a top 10 podcast. And so, Meryl, can you share a few highlights of The Mindful Minute and what you talk about on your show?
Yeah. So the show started as truly 1 to 3 minute meditations. That's where we began. I think I'm on year 8 now of the podcast. So it has been around for a minute. And originally I would record these very short little meditations, very true to the name, Mindful Minute. And that was that. And then I think it was around 2016, maybe 2017, I co-owned a studio at the time, a yoga and meditation studio. And my business partner said to me, you should record your class and put it on your podcast. And I thought, that's brilliant. And so since I'm going to say 2017, that's what I've been doing is I record my live Monday night meditation class. So there's a little talk at the beginning about something related to meditation. We do a 20-minute guided meditation, and that's released every week for however many years that is. And it's been incredible to watch it grow, to get feedback, and I get to teach people all over the world and hear people's stories about how they experienced meditation and what worked and what didn't work. It's been a real joy to put this out into the world.
Oh, that's so fun. And, I think we try to make things more complicated than not. And I was like that when I first started my show. And then I thought, why don't I just record some of the conversations that I have with people? And that's exactly what I do on my show now, and it's really fun because these are conversations like you and these are conversations I'd have at the natural food store with people,
right?
And I thought, hey, why don't we just jump on a podcast and, have this, beautiful conversation and share with others. So it's neat that you had someone come to you and say, hey, why don't you just record what you're already doing? Because I do think we try to make things more complicated than they need to be. And that in itself is very valuable to people. You're providing that beautiful meditation, and now you're able to share it with everybody who can tune in to a podcast, which is amazing.
It's really fun. It's really fun. And it's lovely to be able to expand out the amount of perspective. So, I have taught in Atlanta for a very long time, and I know most of my students very well. it's so fun to get an email from somebody in another country and say, that resonated, or I didn't understand, or how does this work with X? And I'm like, oh, thank you for bringing like fresh air, fresh fodder to the teaching so that it works for everybody, which is, my goal is to make it so accessible that anybody can say, I can meditate.
Absolutely. And so, outside of your podcast, what are some of the other services that you provide for people?
Well, I mostly teach outside of the podcast and the live Monday night class. I mostly teach within trauma and substance abuse recovery. So I do a lot of in-person group sessions that are therapeutic, specifically within a program, which is incredible work. And I love being able to bring mindfulness to recovery.
Yeah.
I do a meditation teacher training once a year. So I'm about to actually start this year's. It's every August. So I'm teaching a new group of people to be meditation teachers. And then other than that, I do a lot of corporate work. So I get to mostly on Zoom, visit companies all over the country or the world and teach mindfulness techniques for at work.
That's amazing. And, I thought of that because I used to work for a blood center and I would see the blood mobiles going around. And I thought, how cool would it be to get a food truck and transform it into a meditation mobile? And you just literally go around to corporations, plop yourself outside, because I do EFT tapping too. So I thought it would be fun to, they could sign up for 15-30 minute increments, throughout their day.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, but then COVID hit and I thought, oh, that maybe not. And then I just kind of moved on to the podcast where then now I can reach millions of people, so it's neat how I truly believe working in the healthcare system, I think the healthcare system is in desperate need of learning meditation and mindfulness techniques because, just me coming from that background, I didn't even have a minute to go to the bathroom. I didn't have a minute to eat. I didn't have a minute to drink water. And so I had to kind of venture out myself to take a mindful minute, within my day and to incorporate that. So I love that you're working with corporations because that is so needed right now. It really is. So Meryl, where can people find you? Do you have a website? What is the best way for people to contact you?
Yes, I have a website. It's my name, so merylarnett.com. And you'll find my podcast on there, my class schedule, any events, all that good stuff is on the website. And if you sign up for the newsletter, the one thing I do for my newsletter subscribers is I take for every podcast episode, they're about 30-ish minutes long. So there's a talk and a meditation. For the newsletter subscribers, they get a copy of just the meditation by itself so that if they want to practice every day with it, they don't have to listen to the whole talk every single time. So it's a little bonus for subscribers. It's free and it's on my website.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so, as we wrap up the show, is there anything that you feel that needs to be shared that maybe we didn't touch on in this show?
No, I've loved chatting with you. I'm so glad the conversation went to nature. I feel like that's such an important piece of our well-being, our balance, and definitely our meditation practice. And I'm delighted to share the practice with anybody that is looking to start a practice. I'm here to tell you that you can meditate. I don't care how many thoughts are in your head. I know you can do it.
Absolutely. And I think I always pull nature, as you can see, for those watching on YouTube, this was Crater Lake. I travel a lot and I visit beautiful places and I take photos and I use those photos in the backgrounds of on my YouTube channel. And so whether you're sitting in nature or you're looking at nature, just watching this, making things more peaceful in your life. And I think, if there's one thing you can do is get out into nature today, just whether it's for 5 minutes or 30 minutes or however long you need to. I think that's a good way to set it a reminder at the end of the show that,
yes,
incorporating more nature into your life. And so, Meryl, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge around meditation and also giving the example that it doesn't have to be difficult. It can really be something that can be very simple to incorporate into our lives. And it's something that we can kind of make a lifestyle of, eventually when we're there. So again, I thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your energy.
Thanks for having me.
You deserve to navigate your life in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.theexistentialempath.com.